Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast, and this week you are blessed by three of us, three of the Revive Stronger team. It is time for you guys to find out who Jess really is. Hopefully some of you are already aware of who Jess is. If you follow myself on social media, you would have seen me posting about her and her recent prep that she went through and the current one that she's going to be starting soon actually. But for those of you who don't know who Jess is, she recently became our intern. She's currently working with 2 clients and doing a fantastic job so far. She might fuck up soon, but so far she's doing a good job. Me and Pascal have been obviously looking over those, and yeah, we couldn't be happier to have Jess on board. She was obviously a client of mine, still a client of mine, and I have only good things really to say about
Steve
Jess.
Is always making all of his clients coaches.
It does seem to happen.
Yeah.
The really good thing, and I've spoken to other like coaching companies about this, it's really difficult to find people that you trust, know what they're doing, but also trust have the best kind of values at heart for not only your company, but also for the people that they're coaching. And I've met Jess several times, and I know her very well, and I can say wholeheartedly she has like her client's best at mind and will do a fantastic job and is so eager to learn. It's kind of like nauseous, but in a good way. So she's competed in the IFBB as a bikini competitor. She looked fantastic, didn't quite get the place we wanted, but did really well. And Jess will expand on that for sure. So that's kind of competitive background. And in future, looking to compete in the WNBF. Very ambitious, and she actually has a really good foundation to move forward with. And then also, she is kind of studying underneath JPS, almost finished, right?
I'm almost done with my cert, yeah.
Almost finished with the JPS Mentorship certification, and hopefully a lot of the listeners also know JPS, Jacob Skepus. They do a fantastic job of educating their personal trainers, and that's just such a foundational thing to go through, and we're really happy that Jess has been doing that as well. And just through conversing with her, I just know how clued up she is and how on top of the education side she is as well. But obviously, like I said, lots of experience. So now it's just about getting that coaching experience. And we're going to just really dig into who Jess is, kind of what got her into what she's doing, and give you an overview and insight into that, and probably some value as well, especially for some of the female listeners. I'm sure there'll be a lot of new value here. And again, I want to say that actually something that stood out to me is why I really wanted Jess on the team is just how good of a social person she is. I don't really know how to say this, but myself and Pascal are a little bit more to ourselves, and Jess is just
I'm the most social guy there.
But Jess is just so great at communicating and developing a community, and we need someone like that on the team, and so we're blessed to have her as well. So I don't know how we want to start really. Jess, do you want to talk about kind of, I guess, what got you into the fitness in the first place, and kind of where things really started going well for you?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for the intro first. That was really like, I'm going to blush. That was really nice. What got me into fitness was my ex-boyfriend actually, but it was a lot of like bro style thing. It was not really structured or anything. And then I discovered you. You were actually the first person I followed into the like evidence-based kind of side of the industry. Followed the podcast, and I was looking for a coach at the time, and I don't know, I just like clicked with you. Then I had the consult and it clicked even better, so it was just like a perfect fit. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's what got me into fitness. Like I was exercising on and off for like maybe three years before, but it was never periodized, never structured. It was just like a lot of group class, bro style thing, not really. You were actually the one who introduced me to like reps in reserve and periodizing my workouts. And I mean, I had a good structure, but I think in the almost 2 years we've been working together, my structure has gotten so much better, like so much faster.
Yeah, it's I would have never, I don't think, from the initial consultation we had, thought that we would be in the position we are now. It certainly didn't feel that way. And I'd say I got the sense that you didn't necessarily have kind of all the structure, and maybe you didn't seem to love it like you do now. Like I see you on kind of social media, and you are like all into this fitness lifestyle and kind of competing and everything, and you absolutely love it. Whereas I don't think you had the same love for it back then. And I don't know if that was because maybe you put in a lot of effort but didn't see the reward, and whereas then when you educated yourself and we started working together, everything started clicking a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the more I got into it, the more I fell in love with it. And I think when I broke up with my ex, I think I was working with you for maybe 3-4 months at the time, or maybe more than that, maybe like 7-8 months. It was the year after, something like that. Anyway, yeah, the more I was working towards building my body, I think I just fell in love with the whole process of like being able to change it and implementing the like science side of it. Like everything was just like well put together. It was like just, yeah, it was just, I was eager to learn. But the more I was learning, the more I was discovering that there are so many more things to learn that is just like, you can't really get out of it once you get really into it, I think, when you're really passionate about it.
I think it's a good thing that you actually took that route, because so often people get into the lifting and they are like eager to just give it their all in the beginning. They do things in an extreme fashion. Like, I need to start 6 times a week of training. I need to hit my macros to the T. And then they are burning out like very, very quickly. Also, most of the time because they aren't seeing the results they are actually thinking they could see, just false reality and expectations. And often when you are starting to enjoy the process and be more process oriented instead of goal driven, like end result driven, you find joy in the process in it for itself and just the journey in it for itself, right?
Yeah, I really agree with that. Yeah, I think if you get into this for like short-term rewards, you're gonna burn out so quick, because it's a game of patience. Like, you have to be doing this for a long time to see results. And if you just do this to like compete and then that's it, you're just going to compete once, you're just going to realize that your body was not as good as you think it was, because you only been training for like maybe a year or 2 years before you actually step on stage. Yeah, I think if you do this for like a short-term reward, it's not really rewarding. It's not a rewarding sport, like especially if you don't put the work year after year after year.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to competing. I think that I would blame social media for it as well. Like, people want instant gratification, and at the same time they have the wrong expectations of what is possible for them, or what is realistic for accomplishing in a short period of time. Because what you see on IG, these are the freaks. And it's for a reason why they always show up in the feeds, and when you just go on the show reel, that they are the ones always popping up. Gen Pop, or people such as you and I, for example, who are not genetically blessed, they are not sexy, and it has always been that way. And if you're then going into that with the mindset of like, okay, I'll put in like 3 years, and then I step on stage and I'll crush everyone, you are in for a hard punch in your face that is called reality.
Yeah, I think that's what you said was like realistic. You have to be realistic with what you can accomplish. And I think the more realistic you are, the better outcome you're going to get. Because even if you don't place, or even if you don't look as good as you thought you would, at least you were realistic with your expectations. And I think that was my mistake last year, where I was going in with like such a huge goal of like placing top 3, or like even winning the like first timer category, which obviously didn't happen. And I think this time around, I'm way more realistic with my goals, and mentally going into prep with realistic goals, I think makes it so much easier, because you know what the outcomes could be. As like last year, like I knew I could place, but we had like a lot of struggle along the way that made us like not place in the end. But yeah, I think realistic is actually the right word for that. You have to have realistic expectations of like what you're going to look like once you step on stage, like according to a lot of things, because you can be training hard, you can be dieting hard. If your genetics aren't there and you haven't been training for like a good amount of time, you're not going to place, because someone else is going to show up with better genetics than you. And most of the time, it's actually soul crushing, because most of the time those people are not training as good as you, or like as hard as you, or not dieting as hard as you, or not doing all the cardio you're doing, or not putting all the effort you're putting in, but they're going to place better because they have the better genetics. So I think, realistic expectations.
Yeah, I don't know if you've guys seen the post that Sam Okunula here today.
Yeah.
I just brought it up because I just want to read it out loud because it's very valuable. He is or was world champion, right? He has a tremendous streak, tremendous physique, by the way. And what he said was, been meaning to post this, but was waiting for the feedback to come in. Got the official score back from the 2019 WNBF official. As you can see, scoring was all over the place. Not a single first place and barely made second place. This is not to talk about placing, but to further elaborate what I tell my clients and first-time competitors. Have you ever worked so hard for something and fall short? That is exactly what bodybuilding is. Hell, that is what competitive sport is. That is what life is. Bodybuilding isn't track and field or powerlifting. Well, powerlifting can be subjective at times, but my point is these sports are solely performance-based, but bodybuilding is subjective and you got to take it for what it is. You might not be someone's cup of tea that day, even when you might have been the best. That's why fitness, bodybuilding, sports have so many parallels to life. You will give 1000% effort and you will still fall short. And don't throw in the towel. You get back to the drawing board and close the gap. Even when you don't think there is any, find it. There's always room to improve. Always. And I found that so valuable. And especially because we just talked about it, I thought to bring that up because he was the world champion. And he even didn't take first place, not even second place, right? So it doesn't even met his expectations. And that coming from someone like him, right, who has the genetics as well, who is working hard, even someone like him can end up not placing as he expected to or wanted to. And then it always falls back to, have you actually done everything you possibly can to actually become successful? And this is where I'm always bringing Steve up as an example. Over the past 2 years, he has freaking ticked off every single box there is. He has possibly even sacrificed other things because he wanted to train twice daily, take care of his nutrition because he had one goal in mind. And that is for 2 years straight he was working on that one. And now the contest prep brings him to 3 years with ticking every single box. And if someone else comes around and is like complaining about, I'm training since like 2 years and I haven't really seen the progress I would like to. Fuck, okay, then you really need to have the talk with yourself, sit down and ask yourself this: have you done everything you possibly can? Nailing your nutrition, nailing your sleep, nailing your stress level, fatigue management. Have you analyzed your training, whether it is the most optimal for you or not? And if you don't, that is totally fine, but then you can't really complain about not getting the results that you would like to.
Yeah, it's always, I always get embarrassed when you say I've ticked every box, but the reality is I don't know why I find it embarrassing. There's probably a psychological reason for it that you could probably pick out, but I mean, it's true. And in my head, I haven't sacrificed anything because the goal is important to me and I feel like I get so much out of it, but that's just my framing of it. If people were to look at me, they'd be like, hey, hang on, you spent how many hours in the gym this year? Like, that sounds a lot of hours you could have put towards other things, which is true. Like, I could have. But yeah, the idea of kind of realistic expectations, I find it such an interesting conversation because I think there is a fine line between being realistic and not kind of bigging yourself up too much, but also having confidence because, yeah, you don't want to like be like, oh, I'm not good. Maybe you don't end up giving your all because you're like, I'm not going to win anyway, or I'm not going to do that well anyway. And it's like, well, are you really going to feel your best from the outcome if that is the way you were? What if you then came second and you're like, well, what if I just had done the extra little ticking of the boxes throughout that period of time that I could have done, but I decided not to because I just wasn't sure I was going to win? And that's why I think we have a good outlook, because we don't do this for the trophy. We don't do it to win. We do it for the process and the lessons that that's going to teach us and to make us a better coach. And I think that's really where the reward comes, is knowing you've given your all to something. And I think people have asked me, like, do I feel pressure this season going into things? Because, like, I don't know, I didn't even do that well last season, but I came like British finals, top 5. I would like to do something similar to that, but I don't really feel pressure because that we have like social media and people are following. I just know that I just want people to know that I'm doing my all and I will do my best. And it will only be things outside of my control that will prevent me from ticking every single box and doing my best. And then it's whatever happens on the day. And I'm realistic about the fact that like I can't control any of those variables. So I would never call it. I'd never be as kind of gumptious to say like, oh, I'm definitely going to be like in the top 3 at finals. But that doesn't stop that being my absolute goal and me giving my all for it. And I think that's the really kind of healthy middle line attitude to have towards competing.
Absolutely. And I think that this is the same way I look at it. So when people are saying like, okay, what are your expectations for the season? I don't have any, right? Because I can't control, or there are so many things that are outside of my control that play into then the overall results. But what I can control is to do, as you said, tick every single box that I possibly can tick along the way, do my very best to actually be as prepared stepping on stage as possible. And then I did my diligence and did what I was supposed to be doing here to actually make it a successful prep for myself, subjectively, right? So, and then it doesn't really matter what the placing is, because that is then a subjective thing from someone else. So, yeah, I mean, and there's no value in then really thinking about those kind of things.
Yeah, I really agree with that. As long as you step on stage and you know that you gave everything you had, and you have this feeling of like, yeah, that it's just really ticking the boxes. If you fall asleep at night and you know that you've done everything in your power throughout the day to get you through the day and to get you closer to stepping on stage in the perfect condition, in like, as long as you do the posing, you do your diet, you do your steps, you train, that's everything in your control. Everything out of your control is out of your control. So in the end, like, it's not going to be like, I don't know how to explain that. I think it's just really about doing whatever you can.
I think many people are also falling very, very easily to that camp where they're just like judging other people for their failure, maybe, and for that they haven't done everything they possibly can. Because I think that the self-awareness is there for many people, and like being absolutely honest with themselves and knowing like, okay, there was this one weekend where I went out with my family and I wasn't really on point with my macros, which is totally fine. But I mean, maybe you've lost like a couple of days here and there, right? Throughout the entire prep, this can add up where you have maybe lost like 1, 2, 3 weeks of efficient fat loss. And instead of then seeking the mistake or the failure with yourself, which is hard to admit for many people, and this is something that we see in many aspects of life, that people are more easily drawn towards pointing fingers at someone else, that they were the reason for their failure, instead of pointing that at themselves and be like, holy shit, it was my mistake. I fucked up here, but next time I will do better. And this is actually the way to go about it. This is the way how you improve over time. And sorry for that. This is the way how you improve over time. And I think that many people are like, especially in that situation where they come off the stage, they are in that emotional state, and they don't want to admit that they were the cause for maybe not placing as well. Because it is hard to tick every single box along the way. Is it always necessary? No, but it will increase your chances of actually then placing better.
I would love to jump in on here. Yeah. And just give the audience an example from Jess's prep, actually, where I think you easily could have, at various moments in your prep, made excuses for why you weren't ticking the box. But you can kind of explain the situations to the listeners and how you still managed to. And like Pascal said, sometimes we think ticking the box is the right answer. Sometimes it's kind of like, actually, the box you need to tick is chilling out and relaxing and isn't over obsessing about things. But I know there were several times in your prep where you had some really hard times that you went through. They didn't set you back as much as they could have been prep ending experiences. So I'd love to, for you to share those with the audience, and hopefully we'll have none this year.
Yeah.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.
No, I think, hopefully this year we won't have I think the biggest setback that I had during prep was all the plateauing that my body did. I think we started prep just to give I'm just going to give the amount of calories I was on, if that's fine, but it's just to give an overview. I started prep on 1,600 calories and I've been maintaining on 2,400 before that for a good amount of time. So I was actually maintaining on 24. So 1,600 was already 800 calories deficit. I started prep on 1,600. Fat loss was really slow. So we decreased that. I think we went all the way to 1,100 in the end for a few months, 1,100. And I was doing a lot of cardio. I was doing a lot of steps. And I think I wasn't expecting to go that low in calories. So it was already a mindfuck in the beginning. It was just I'm never going to go lower than 15. I'm never going to go lower than 14. And then we had to push more. But thinking back, I think those were actually the best learning moments of prep, because the hardest days, in the end, when you've accomplished a day, you're just in bed and you're okay, this was probably the hardest day that I've been through the whole prep, but I've made it. And if I made it this far, going through all those shit days, I can easily go 2 more months and we can decrease the calories and we can increase the cardio, and I'm still going to be able to make it. I think the mental aspect of that was easily winning over the physical, you're just a zombie at this point. You're just barely functioning. Nothing works normally. But yeah, I think the biggest setback was just plateauing all the time and not seeing the scale move. And if you put pictures next to each other from maybe my prep was about 30 weeks long. If you put pictures from the beginning of prep, 15 weeks in it, and then stage weight or stage pictures, there's a huge difference. But if you take them weekly, it was so slow. It was such a slow process. And I think that would be probably what would cause people to end the prep, actually, because it's such a mindfuck not to see anything move, or it's moving so slowly. And yeah, I think the biggest one was probably plateauing. I need to add that I started prep. I was not fat, but I was nothing close to an optimal body to start with. But yeah, definitely plateauing is a bit of a mindfuck. Mentally, physically, it's just really hard.
How low did you need to push then? What was it?
How low in calories?
Yeah.
1100.
All right.
Yeah. I was on 1100 the last couple months, I think.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And you never, it's like you hear people say you're going to have to go lower than you think you will.
Yeah.
I was like, surely I'm not going to go under 1500 because I'm maintaining on 24. That's a 900 calories deficit and it's going to go fine for a few months. But no, that's not the reality of it, I think. And from my experience and from the experience, like from talking backstage with all the girls, we were all on fuck all calories in the end. We were all doing a lot of cardio, lots of steps. It was just like, it's the reality for everyone. Like if you're able to diet down to all the way to stage on like 1500 calories, you're lucky. You're like the exception because it's never like that.
Yeah, I think it's always shocking, especially as guys, I think, to hear how low calories and how high activity has to go for females because, I don't know, we've just got a genetic advantage in that sense. We just, from the get-go, are burning more calories just each day and then more muscle mass and all these other factors. We just burn at a higher level. So it's always frustrating. Yeah, it's just so hard. And I don't think, whilst it's all relative, like if you're losing at 1% of your body weight, that's hard for everyone. But for someone who is like 150 pounds or less, female, who maybe has a sedentary job, they're damn eating under 2,000 calories guaranteed and doing quite a lot of probably extra cardio to try and achieve that. So it's really tough. And then that was a huge lesson. Like you said, it was the first time we competed. We took you to stage, and actually it was the first time we dieted in a long time. It wasn't like we'd been kind of yo-yo dieting many months before that. You were in actually a very good, like, healthy state to start dieting. We expected the weight just to come right off. And I think if anyone was looking from the outside in, that's what you'd expect. And it just didn't. And it took us a while and it took me a while to accept that actually I'm going to have to do something I really don't want to do and keep forcing calories down. And your body was just being kind of stubborn in that regard. Thankfully, though, and something you've done really well, and I'm kind of jumping to another ship here, I guess, is a lot of the time when people do go through such long extended preps where they really have to fight for fat loss, they end up rebounding pretty hard out the other end. And that's why we try and do it periodized, have diet breaks and things, of which we planned many and had to dig right through, unfortunately, which again was gutting, but sometimes you have to do that to get the result we wanted. But out the other end, you've done incredibly well. You've managed things better than I ever could have hoped, and you haven't had the perfect kind of nothing going on scenario. You've had quite a lot even going on, but I think that has also made you such a more effective dieter in future, because it's like a lot of people say the kind of time after the show is the hardest time, and you've managed that. Just, we couldn't have hoped for a better scenario than we've got now. So yeah, I'd love to hear what allowed that to be okay, and what kind of actually realistically, how hard has it been to be as on point as you have been?
I think I was dreading the post show more than the actual prep itself. And that's why we talked a lot about it. And that's why we had a plan set way before the show actually came. And I think that was the right way to go. Yeah. Post show was way better than I expected it to be. I took 2 days off tracking anything. I just ate till I got sick. And then I ate again, and I think I just needed to let it all out. So the nationals were on Sunday. I took Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday off of tracking anything. I just ate donuts and pizza, like anything I wanted. On Wednesday morning, I woke up and I was like, okay, I've had my 2 days. Now I'm back on track. And it just happened. I was like, I think I was disappointing with no placing and not even looking as good as I wanted to look. I think I knew I wanted to compete this year, and I knew I needed that post show to be perfect for me to be able to prep again this April, because if I would have fucked up the post show, I would have needed to take a massive off season and then prep again next year. And I wanted to compete this year. So I think that factor of like needing to be on point helped a lot. And I think communication was just like massive too. I needed to like talk with you and know exactly what was going on. But yeah, I woke up on the Wednesday morning and was like, if I want to compete next year, if I want this to be as healthy as possible, I need to be back on track now. And I just went on with like my cardio and tracking my calories again. And to be honest, I was on such low calories the last couple of months in prep that going back up to like 17 or 1800, it was so easy. I was just like not tired of eating. Obviously, I was still hungry, but it was so much more manageable than 1100. So yeah, I think post-show, it's so easy to fuck up, especially if you have a bad outcome or if you didn't look your best. Like you can easily say, okay, I've done all of this for nothing. I'm just going to go binge. I'm just going to go eat everything I can. Or like, and that's what we talked about with Pascal on like the forum. Like so many people hire coaches and just ditch them right after prep. Like the show is over and they're like, okay, now you've done your part and I'm just going to be by myself. This is the worst thing you could be, because post-show is the time you want to have someone to talk to. It's the time you need guidance, because it's such a hard time mentally, because you're going to see your body putting out like more body fat. You're obviously going to be softer. You're not going to look like you're on stage, obviously. Although I think I looked best about 2 weeks after my show, because I had all the food and I was distressed. The stress factor was such a massive one that when I moved to Sydney for like 2 weeks, I took my first check-in pictures post-show. Granted, I had a tan on. I had like a lot of good food. Like it was perfect, but it's not the case for many people. You don't look better a month post-show. And I think having someone to talk to, having someone guiding you through that post-show is like crucial. You need to keep your coach post-show, because it's as important as prep.
I feel like I think that is super valuable and important for people to hear, and this is something that Steve and I always talk about, that the post-show period is something that you need to have a strategy for and should take as seriously as the contest prep. The prep isn't over because the show is over, right? The prep is still going on because the body is still in that state. You should treat it accordingly. And my personal experience, unfortunately, I have to say that probably from a relative perspective, I feel like I have failed more people post-show period than I have let them out successfully. Not because I had the wrong strategy for them. Perhaps I did, because they didn't stick to the strategy. And then they ended up ghosting me, right? You want to help them. You're not their enemy. You're not judgmental as a coach. You're not giving them, I don't know, just because they binge, you don't give them now, I don't know, 1,000 calories, even more of a deficit, just because they binged or so, right? You are a team, and many people, if they are then ghosting you, it ends up being in that lonely place. They try to solve the issues by themselves, and most of the time that's not working. And this is something that you see in psychology all the time. People who are going to see actually a professional help, they can be helped. And those people who don't, they can't be helped, because they think that they can handle these situations by themselves, but most of the time they can't, because they don't know what is going on. They can't comprehend everything that is happening around them, right? Even though they may think they do, but this is just a normal bias that many people have. And especially so the post-show period, just to sum it up once again, I think it's so important to have someone by your side who can stay objective, who is in your corner, who can guide you, who can give you some strategies, where you are, once again, such as in prep, kind of in that zombie mode where you just need someone who tells you what to do in that period of time, and you go out and execute. If you don't have that, and if you don't have someone to talk to, and especially someone in your environment, in your private life, probably no one can relate to how you feel and what you're going through, and thus there's no one that can help you, except maybe for the coach. Unless you are in a rare situation where everyone around you is a competitor as well, right? But other than that, communication is key, and also being surrounded by other people is also very, very important in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of see it's such a strange time because you've literally just peaked for like your best physique ever. And then if that is your last show of the season, it's like a complete U-turn. I actually would analogize it like you're down a racetrack and then you're having to just turn and then go the other way. It's kind of like how you take that bend is so important, because if you don't take it well, if you don't have foresight to see that bend, you could just crash and burn. And I also think it, like you said, Pascal, unfortunately, you've had the plan, you've had the foresight. And I think it takes quite a lot of responsibility, not just for the coach, but also the client. And I don't want to say that as a way of getting out of it or saying that it's not always, it can't be the coach's fault. It definitely can be. But Jess did a great job of communicating to me, of kind of wanting to control that period. Whereas I have had, like you said, clients who we've talked about it beforehand, and they maybe haven't been totally sold or interested. And you just already know that unfortunately they're going to ghost you and not have the best period. And I think for some people, that's the choice that they want to make, and everyone can make that choice, and maybe that's fine. You just hope they don't regret that 6 months down the line when they're like, I'm going to mini cut now because I'm heavier than I ever have been in my life and my body comp's not great. And you're kind of like, oh no, now you're not, that's not probably the best idea right now.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like I failed them, because you could always make the argument that the strategy you laid out wasn't the right for that individual. So I'm always asking them myself, was there a way that you could have prevented that? And I don't have the answer. All right? Sometimes it's just what people do, and you can tell them whatever you want, and they will still go out in the water and they can't swim or so, right? So, but the question is always then popping to my head where it's like, could I have prevented that? Could I have told them something? Or could I have given them maybe a different strategy to prevent that from happening? And the answer isn't there for me, at least.
I think you have to put it out there as an extension of prep. I think you have to tell people that post-show you're not on prep anymore. You don't have the pressure of like losing that amount of weight each week, and you don't have the pressure of like, okay, the deadline is still there. I know I have a show to get there too. And I think that's what is hard. It's the lack of goal post-show. When you don't have a goal in sight, you just go all out on everything you want, because like Steve said, you're just like, okay, worst case scenario, I'm just going to gain a lot of weight and I'll just mini cut that after. That could work, but that's so not healthy. Like, it's not the healthiest way you could do it. I think viewing it as an extension of prep and having a goal post show, maybe a month after, having like a photo shoot or anything that could keep you in check. If you know that you're someone who can easily get drawn into like binging and like all this like vicious cycles, if you're someone like that, yeah, definitely have a goal post show that require you not to gain as much, or like have like an exit strategy that's sustainable, but that's realistic. If you know you're going to binge, try to find something that's going to prevent that. And as you said, there's only so much you can do. Sometimes, I'm not saying most people, some people can't be helped. Like, you have to own it. You have to be responsible for what you're doing too. That's a massive part too. It's like acknowledging as a coach that you've done your best, but if people are not adhering to what you want them to do, you can't force them. There's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can impact, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Just to take it a different road, you said that you weren't really satisfied with the outcome, right? And I'm just wondering, was it maybe also due to the level field? So it was IFBB, and as we know, it's an untested federation. So do you think that this wasn't the reason for that? There may have been a discrepancy in regards to the placing and then the overall outcome. Don't you think that now you want to actually compete at the WMBF, that it is then a little bit more leveled when it comes to that?
Yeah, 100%. I think the level, especially in Australia, within the bikini competitors at least, everything above like is definitely like high level. But even within the bikini competitors, like the level was insane. And I think I wasn't happy. Okay, I was happy with my transformation, like my own transformation. I was really happy with. It took a little bit of mental work to get there, but looking back now, I'm like, this is such a huge difference, and it taught me so many things along the way. It was a really valuable year. Now, when it comes to placing, I think my expectations weren't realistic, as we said. Like, that's why I'm going in this year with like realistic expectations. But yeah, it definitely has to be with the fact that, yeah, it was the IFBB Pro League and it's untested and the level was insane. And it was my first prep. I was a first timer, but even within the first timers, like the level was still insane. Like it was crazy.
Because yeah. I think, and this is something that I told you, looking at your physique, you have such a good package. And now it's just a question about getting that level of leanness that is required. And then I think that you are extremely competitive, like honestly. And this is something that I've told you already before that. So, and especially because of that, then looking back in hindsight, I find it even more so, I don't know, sad that you then had your first time competitive experience there. Sure, it had it benefits. Now, looking back in hindsight, you learned a lot. You took a lot of lessons away from it. But also at the same time, it was a smack in your face in many, many ways. It could have ended up have quite a different outcome, because this is what you see sometimes with people when they face the harsh reality, and it's so crushing on them that they then end up quitting it all just because of that one-time experience. So I'm once again very, very happy that you actually then took away so much positive away from that, because it could have ended like absolutely crushing and detrimental. But at the same time, it is then, of course, a little bit like sad and regretful when you're like looking back and be like, okay, it was your first season that you then picked that federation, because the level wasn't plain. And
yeah, definitely. And like you said, I think my frame, or like the amount of muscle mass that I carry, is not the problem this time around. At least I think it was a lot about conditioning. I wasn't conditioned enough to be competitive. If I would have been leaner, I probably would have been competitive even within the IFBB. Only because I think the feedback that I got from the judges was based on the fact that I wasn't lean enough. Like I wasn't having a gluteine separation. I wasn't like, to them, my delts weren't popping enough. But again, I think I was still carrying too much body fat for it to show. And I think this prep around, if we can get down to like a really lean level, it'll show more. Obviously, you can always put on more muscle. Like that's always the goal. I want bigger glutes. I want bigger delts, more back width. Like those are the things you're chasing when you're a bikini competitor, because that's the traits for the bikini competitor. But yeah, in the end, I think it was a lot to do with conditioning. And yeah, it was a valuable lesson. I think you have to do the work mentally after prep to just be like, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what did I like, what didn't I like, and you have to find a positive outcome. Like no matter what happened, you have to be like, okay, this was a lesson. I will not do that again. Or like it. And again, as Steve said, it was my first prep. I've never been that lean. I've never dieted down to like that. My body weight on stage there was like 57 kilos. I haven't been 57 kilos since I was a teenager. So it was a long time ago. So it was still for my personal accomplishment, it was huge. Like the transformation that I posted on Instagram. Now when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I did something really good. And all the work, like I end up being grateful for it to be a lesson in the end, because yeah, it taught me so much. And I think it taught Steve so much about how my body works, when to push, when not to push. Because most people tend to say that when your body stalls, it's just going to end up leveling at some point and you're just going to drop it. We know my body doesn't. when it stalls, and it's just how it is. So we have to push further. But now that we know that, it's going to be so good for next season, which is like just this year. Because yeah, I think first prep, you have to go without expectations, and you just have to be aware that it's just going to be a lot of experience to gain, like a lot of knowledge that you're going to gain about yourself, about the way you're getting coached, and for your coach to actually know how your body works.
And I always say that in every negative experience, there's something positive. And especially that holds true with your prep, right? You're going out of it way more mature, knowing way more about yourself than if you would have placed well. Probably then it was like, yeah, it was a good prep, but now you've took so much away to actually then go out there, improve for the next time. And I think that this is something that Steve and I talked about in the past as well. Matt Frazier, when it comes to CrossFit Games, he has been like the second place that one time against Rich Froning, and Rich Froning was like 4 times, I think, strongest man alive or fittest man alive it is. And it was crushing to him. And he now has been 5 times fittest man on earth or so in a row. And he basically said, like, looking back in hindsight for that second place, he said it was a blessing because I was lazy as fuck. I didn't take care of my nutrition. And after that second place, it was a smack to my face, and I hated that second place. But it was fuel to the fire, because then I went out there and I actually took care of all these things. I started actually being an athlete. And before that, I was just like a lazy bastard. And then he went out for a streak and winning those CrossFit Games like 5 times in a row or so. And it can be a blessing, like those negative experiences, right? When someone is going to you and gives you critique on something, if it's valid critique, welcome it with open arms instead of like being emotional about that. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the podcast. Just wanted to take one moment of your time to actually talk about our coaching services over at Revive Stronger. We at Revive Stronger, we offer an incredible premium personal coaching service just for people like you, and I know you will love it. Do you want to work with us? Here's what I need you to do. Head over to revivestronger.com. Go up to the coaching tab. Click on online coaching. Once there, read through the requirements and what it takes to be an online client. Once finished, hit apply now, and you're only one step away from applying to our services. Fill out the Google form and you're done. And that was basically it. A coach is going to reach out to you shortly, and then it's Team Revive Stronger.
Awesome. I don't know if we want to, I'm thinking maybe we can slightly change tack and talk about, Jess, what drew you to wanting, obviously you found passion within the fitness industry and you started really enjoying changing your own physique and then competing, but then you took this a stage further by actually, obviously we haven't even told the listeners, you moved to Australia and you competed in Australia, and you're now back in France. Are you in France right now? So back in France, which is home country, and Jess travels a lot. So even post show, I was going to say how you'd been kind of in London, in Barcelona, and this was within weeks of completing prep. And obviously you said you went to Sydney. So that was incredible to control all of that. But obviously, yeah, you took it a step further because you actually wanted to get like mentorship by arguably probably in the evidence-based fitness industry, as far as we're concerned, by some of the best that you could possibly do it with. And I'd love to hear kind of what made you want to take it from just competing and doing it for yourself to then actually make it more of a career and help other people with it. And how's your experience so far been doing it? Because now it's been maybe like a month now.
Coaching people?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Ian is coming to the end of his mini-cut, so it's going to be a month. Yeah. So for a question, yeah, I've always been really interested in like developing my body and just like even competing. I'm very competitive. I think I learned it like the hard way, but I end up being very competitive. But I think the coaching side of things and always trying to reach like a more experienced, like just getting more knowledge. I think, well, you told me to go to JPS I was looking, okay, I'm just going to go backwards, but I broke up with my ex. I was living in the US, came back to France, and I was looking for something to do with my life because I was 26 at that point, and I didn't really go to school, didn't really get like a good job or anything. I was just really lost. And I was just like, why wouldn't I combine my passion for bodybuilding with a possible future career? And then I talked about it to you that I wanted to travel to Australia and that I was looking for a certification or a mentorship to do. And you mentioned Jacob, and then I emailed Jacob, and then he showed me the mentorship and the in-person certification that you can take. And I think at that point, I knew that I wanted to coach people, but I needed more knowledge. So just moved to Australia, did my in-person certification and mentorship at JPS. It was amazing. To be honest, I would recommend that to everyone. Like, if you don't have an academic background, just do a mentorship. Find someone that you can look up to, that you know is knowledgeable, and just try to pick their brains as much as you can and learn as most as you can from them. And I think the more I was learning, the more I was realizing that I didn't know anything, or like not enough at least. And I still don't, but I think that feeling of not knowing enough just fueled the fire in me to actually wanting to know more and to learn more about it. And then I think the coaching side of things, I've always said I wanted to coach people for competing, but I think I would do great with like just Gen Pop clients because of the social side of it. I'm a very social person. Any connection that I can make with people, if you think about it, like coaching is exactly like, to me, in my opinion, that's just my personal opinion, but like coaching is at first just building a relationship with someone so they can trust you and you can know more about them, and that they can be open to you and they can be relaxed with you, and that's how you get to know more about them. But the first 2 clients that I have now, that's the foundation that I'm trying to build with them. It's just actually knowing their background, knowing what worked in the past, what didn't work, what they expect from me, and just building that relationship and teaching them too along the way. That was a very messy answer. Like, I don't know if you get that, but yeah, pretty much I just enjoy educating myself. And I think you can never know enough in the fitness industry in general. Like, there are always so many things to learn. It never really stops. And I've always had this fear of failure being a woman, I think. And because if you look at all the coaches in the evidence-based industry, at least, not a lot are female. Like, you rarely find female that are at that level. And I feel like if I fail, it's going to be put towards the fact that I'm a girl and that maybe I didn't have my place like, does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even when you look outside of the fitness industry, you look at every single industry and it's still absolutely male dominated. And I don't know exactly why the fitness industry is still so male dominated. Like, we've had comments before, like, we want more females on the podcast, and we absolutely look to bring on females. It's not like we try not to, but at the forefront, you look at the evidence-based industry, you look at the people that we look up to, the majority are men, and that just is the way it is. And I think for you, the really cool thing that you've got, Jess, is that, and the 2 guys, well, you're coaching 2 guys, so that kind of says it in itself. But I think the really cool thing with you, Jess, is that there is no, like, I feel that men would feel very happy to be coached by you. I don't know why. Like, sometimes I feel like guys maybe don't want the coaching from a female. And then maybe that leads to less female coaches because males are more so into bodybuilding. So there's just a bigger pool of people there that are interested in building muscle, losing fat. So I think that kind of developed itself. But that's where I think you have such a large opportunity to just like establish yourself as one of the kind of leading coaches in the evidence-based scene, because I think a lot of them do struggle because they don't have that kind of, you have that kind of social ability to kind of find a common ground with anyone, which I think is super powerful. Yeah,
and I think I was really surprised, to be honest. Like, that I'm actually coaching two guys. I would expect for only females to be wanting to coach by me. And now I have Ian and Rob. And Rob is like 6'5". He's like 240 pounds. He's like this huge guy. And I'm like, wow, like this is such a change even for me. And to be honest, that's why I said on the member sites Q&A that I'm actually happy to be coaching guys, because it's teaching me too. Because now that I've been working with you for 2 years, I know how I work. I think I would be more comfortable working with a female because I tend to know more how they would work or how they would want to work out or anything. But I think coaching male is actually going to teach me more, because I've never coached any male before. Like I've coached friends, but they were all female, and that's pretty much it. Not that as long as you apply the same principles, it's about the same. But I still think there's like minor, even especially psychological differences that make it really interesting. And yeah, I think I'm going to learn more coaching guys than I would do.
Yeah, but fundamentally speaking, I think that what coaching is, you kind of nicely described it already. It is about building a solid relationship with another and then finding out what the individual wants and what they need, right? And thus, then you have to be the one who then adapts to them and figures these kind of things out. And that, I mean, yeah, sure, physiologically there are obviously differences, but at the same time, it is up to you then to figure out what that individual needs. And there are even massive discrepancies intergender, is that even a word? Intergenderally, right? So per gender there is even, so between Steve and I, there's a huge discrepancy as well. Steve is jacked, I'm not.
You've got the manly, like male traits for the face, though. I don't have those. What's going on?
I don't know if that's rated highly on stage.
Someone did ask me, actually. Sorry, just complete side. People ask the weirdest questions about, like, are you judged on like facial aesthetics? Are you judged on, I don't know, people are, I think sometimes they're trolling, sometimes they're not. That I didn't feel like it was a troll. I think they're actually being serious about whether you're judged on like your beard or something like that.
Bodybuilding.
Do we have anything else? I think we've done a nice little overview of Jess, who she is, where she's come from, what she's doing for us, where she's going. I guess we could finish with what are your goals for this season, Jess? And what is it? We've kind of touched on the WNBF, but so that people are aware, and and if people are interested, I'm sure in the coming months we will be opening up some more spots for Jess to take people on, because she's doing a great job so far. So we're very happy to kind of extend that further and let people know where your social media is, where best to contact you, and if they want to kind of ask you specific questions.
Yeah, sure. So my goals for this year, obviously my big priority, it's just to get more clients, get working with Revive Stronger and developing all the aspects, all the business aspect, because it's really new to me to have to like schedule my days and to like have this routine of like checking in with the clients and everything, which is a really good thing because I needed structure. But yeah, priority goal, Revive Stronger for sure. And that's what I said to Brendan when we were in London. Hi, Brendan. I told him, like, if my prep is having a negative impact on my work, I would definitely stop my prep, because Revive Stronger is my priority for this year. But as far as competitive goals, I want to get to Worlds. And I said, we're all going to Worlds as a team, whether it's as a coach or as an athlete.
That's what I said. With me, if I'm going to Worlds, then only as a coach, not as an athlete. I don't think that this is going to happen. I think Z is
going to Worlds.
Yeah, Z is going to Worlds. Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. He just needs to do what he has to do, and then he will get there.
Is LA this year? Or is it? It's not New York, is it? They moved it.
I think Charlie told me,
or maybe
it was supposed to be in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Sorry. I don't know where I got LA from. I'm thinking about You, I think. Sorry. The show.
It's not out yet, so we don't know. But wherever it is, we're going, so it doesn't really matter.
Team Revive will go to Worlds.
Yes.
We just need to wait for Harry's response because he never said whether he's in or not. So, yeah.
And
he doesn't
then
have a choice.
No, he doesn't.
Harry will be there. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Harry's not I don't feel like Harry's going to turn down a holiday, or not a holiday. It's going to be a working holiday, kind of. And then where, if people want to reach out to you, Jess, where are you kind of active?
Instagram, Jess Dalgish, Instagram. We can probably link it down, or yeah, I'm all the time on Steve's stories anyway, but yeah, Jess Dalgish on Instagram.
And also on the forum, quite active there.
Yes.
And, yeah. So you're logging your training and your competitive journey over in the forum. So if people want to actually follow along what you're doing, where you're at, all that kind of jazz, then I think that this is probably also the best place to do that.
And we need more girls on the forum. So ladies,
this is exactly what. So shout out to Krista, who is from New York as well, and who is stepping on stage in April. So figure, and she is now starting to be a little bit more active in the forum. Today I had a check-in with her, and she said like, I want to be more active in the forum, but man, do we need more females on there? Yeah. I was just like, yes.
So it will happen. Yeah. I think we just need them to come out from the woodwork. We could probably look into our members. I'm sure there's a group of females there that just are waiting.
Brett Contreras, tell us your secrets.
Awesome. I guess that's a wrap. Thank you all for listening.